Welcome to the Unscripted Authentic Leadership Podcast, a podcast where we are seeking to lead change while also seeking to understand. We are also a community here for leaders to come together to unite, to develop and empower other leaders in the areas of business, family, faith, and community. This is just one part of the Unscripted Authentic Leadership platform. We are here to do our podcast for another week. I know for the past couple of weeks we've had several guests, and we don't want you all to forget about me and John. No, just kidding. We've enjoyed having our guests, Dr. Vibe and Courtney Wetzel. But this week we're back to the core foundation of me and John, and we've got an exciting episode for you all. But before we get into that, we definitely want to say thank you to all of our Unscripted Authentic Leadership support and our Unscripted family, those of you that are a part of our YouTube family that have subscribed to our YouTube channel there, Unscripted Authentic Leadership, and whether you're there or you follow us on one of our social media platforms. You can see that on the screen. Those of you that are watching, you can find us on Facebook. Our Facebook page is Unscripted Authentic Leadership. Our Instagram page handle is at Unscripted Leadership. And you can also find us on LinkedIn at Unscripted Authentic Leadership. And those of you that may not watch the podcast on YouTube or watch it on Facebook, you can stream this podcast on any streaming platform, whether it be Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeart Radio, Stitcher, Buzzsprout, and so forth. You can find our podcast there. And when you're listening to our podcast, on any of those streaming platforms, please leave us a review. What the review allows us to do, it puts us, we are in the time, in the age where we live in the time of algorithms. And so when you leave us a review, the algorithm will pick that up and it'll put our podcast out more front and center for a bigger audience to have their eye on for more exposure. So we appreciate that. Those of you that leave us a review, comment and subscribe to those particular channels that allows you to comment and subscribe, but particularly on the Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the streaming platforms. We definitely appreciate those that leave us a review. You can also find on our website, unscriptedleadership.buzzsprout.com, it'll actually show you all of those directories that I just aforementioned. And so we're excited to get into the topic today. But before we get into that, me and John, we live in Ohio. I know those of you that listen to this, you're probably listening from different parts of the United States. And some of you listen, we have faithful listeners that listen in Europe. But over here, it's winter time. And we've got a little bit of snow last night. So it's a little bit of a winter wonderland outside. But I'm feeling good and I'm excited. And John, how you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm jealous for all of you that are in Florida right now. It's one day from February. Our cold starts about end of November, somewhere in November.
Yeah.
And I'm ready for it to clear up. But other than that, great. My kids love it. Snow, they're playing in it. They're building snowmen and people and whatever. But
yeah,
it's all good, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. I'm a winter baby, so I'm born December 27th. So the winter doesn't bother me, and I've lived in Ohio all of my life, so it's all good, man. We really haven't had a really bad winter in a while that I can remember, and so we've been overdue for some snow. But let's get into the topic, man. This week is exciting. We want to talk about the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding. As we said at the beginning of the opening, and how we're here to develop leaders and unite and empower leaders. One of the areas of empowerment that people talk about all the time is the area of just doing it. And we did an episode about just do it a while back. But this is a kind of a different perspective, and it goes right in line with that because a lot of times we put things into the atmosphere as leaders, as those who have aspirations, those who have goals, dreams, and things that we want to accomplish. But we live in a world and we live in a society that is not interested in so much of how great your strategy sounds. Not interested as much as how great your vision even looks on paper, we're more interested in the results that we see. And so a lot of times people will live by the quote, I see better than I hear. And so a lot of us, we sound great. We sound wonderful with the aspirations and the dreams that we have. And I definitely am a firm believer in speaking those things and speaking out what your dreams and aspirations are. But after you have spoken it, after you've written it down, after you've declared it, you've got to do it. And the reality is that people will follow your results more than what you say. And so there are a lot of people that may not be loud on social media. They may not be the loudest person in the room. They may not be the loudest person in their family or in the business meeting. But when you look at their results, they have loud results. And so their actions speak louder than their words. And we thought about this whole idea about the proof is in the pudding. It's not a new saying. It's an old saying. It's an old proverb saying, if you will, of the proof is in the pudding. But the old proverb said, the proof is in the eating. In other words, it's literally you can judge the worth or the value of something when it's put to its intended use. And so now, what are you doing with the goal? What are you doing with your 2021 vision? What are you doing with your 2021 strategy? Because the proof of your concept, that's a term that you hear on Shark Tank all the time. The proof of the concept is its intended use. And so now that you've spoken it, now that you've declared it, what is the action behind what you've said? What is the end result that's going to be the mark of the success or the failure of your effort or your planning? And so the phrase can also be used not only in a future tense, but the phrase, the proof is in the pudding, can be used in past and future tense, not just present tense, but you can state it as the proof will be, or the proof was in the pudding. And so if we talk about it from the perspective of the past tense, some of the reasons why some of us have feel like we have failed in some of the areas where we launched out into, maybe we launched out in 2020, maybe we launched out at the beginning of this year and we've already burnt out, is because there was no results from what we were doing. And sometimes we get burned out in the process. We get burned out because we don't necessarily see that proof. But sometimes proof takes time. Sometimes it takes hard work after time to build up. And so you cannot be so quick to give up on your dream, so quick to give up on your vision, so quick to give up on your aspirations, because at the end of the day, we will judge you by your results. People are not going to judge you so quickly because you've done it for a month and you may not be seeing the result that you think you should and you give up. We're going to judge you and say, you know what? Okay, after a month, it may not be going well. After 6 months, it may not be going well. But this person stuck with it. They stuck with the building process. They stuck with their aspirations and their goals. They stuck with the strategy and they kept on building because little steps, and I don't want to get too far ahead, but little steps add up. And so, John, I want to get your perspective before we go a little further into what do you think about this whole the proof is in the pudding and about how our actions speak much louder than our words. What's your perspective on that?
So what you say, let me rephrase that. Too many people spend too much time just screaming from the hilltop. Just look what I'm about to do. Look what I'm about to do. Look at me. Look at me. Right? We do it on social media. People do it from stages. They feel like they have to have this bravado where it's like, I'm going to conquer the world and you will see what I'm about to do. Blah, 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 blah. And I think it starts sometimes because, especially for entrepreneurs or anybody who wants to sort of step out from the norm, you often will get criticized. And so you sort of have to develop this thick skin about you, right? Almost like this shell of protection to protect your dream from all the naysayers. And I get it. Been there. Everybody who's done something besides what everyone's told you to do has had that experience. And so you almost have to develop this shell around you. The problem is that it's almost like that shell is a fake, like bad self-image where you feel like you just have to tell everyone what you're about to do. I've always been the quiet guy. I like to talk, but I've never been the loud one in the room hooting and hollering. I love to go to like conferences and so forth. And in every conference, you see this guy who, when the first guy gets up on stage and his goal is to get the crowd pumped up, every kind of leadership or something typically has somebody like that. They're just trying to get the energy in the room up. There's always that dude next to you who starts screaming like, woo, he's the woo guy, right? And it talks about everything he's about to do. And I almost always turn to my wife and I'm like, yeah, he's about to quit whatever he's doing. Because it's just most of the time that's what happens. The guy with the fire inside who's like, I'm going to do this and I don't care. That's the one that I would follow. But anyways, you know, what you do speaks so loudly that I can't hear what you say, right? What you do just speaks so loudly that nobody wants to hear what you have to say. It's just about just do what you're supposed to do and the results will speak for you. It's not about what you say you're going to do. It's about what you do. And, you know, you mentioned people quitting too early. You know, most people, I'm sorry, you mentioned most people quitting. Most people just quit way too early. That consistency is typically key to anything you're doing. I remember the first time I started a LinkedIn page for my dad's company, and it took me 9 months to get to, I think it was 20 followers, which is pathetic. 9 months because it was on LinkedIn, and I knew nothing about it. I was trying to post things, hashtagging things. It's in the cybersecurity field. I was just trying every day, almost every day. Rarely did I miss a day. I was posting something, and it just wasn't gaining traction. It took me 9 months to get to 20 followers. But I remember on 4th of July weekend, I'm with my family, and I posted something. Somebody else finally caught it. And in the next, like 30 or 60 days, it went from 20 followers to 1,500 followers to 3,000 followers, you know, and so forth. And so not that we have even the most, there's lots of people with more followers than we do, but it took 9 months to get to 20, and then it took 60 days to get to 3,000. So it was all about, and it wasn't just because somebody else caught it. It was because when something happened, I thought, wait, that works pretty well to have a boost in following. So if I just tweak a little bit about what I'm doing, and each time I did it, each time I posted something, I learned a little something different. And as I got better and better and better, I realized what kind of things people are actually attracted to. That's just an example. But the consistency will breed your confidence and breed what you're learning. And that actually will help you propel forward. There's a book called Acres of Diamonds. It takes about 10 minutes to read. Recommend everybody reads it. And the book is basically about a man who starts mining for diamonds at some place that he thinks is amazing because where he's at probably isn't good enough. And he's mining and mining and mining and mining, and then comes to find out that the diamonds were in his own backyard. He just didn't mine long enough in his own yard. Acres of Diamonds, highly recommend it. You're on mute, bro.
Wow. That was good. That was good, especially that last piece. But I want to go back to something you said about how you attend the leadership conferences and that guy that's yelling, that the pump up guy. It's
the woo guy.
The woo guy, the Ric Flair. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Woo!
And as you were talking about that, my mind started thinking about how people are driven by the appearance of success, but not the reality of success.
Yeah, like the guy with the fake airplane or the fake mansion on YouTube.
Yeah. So like, it's almost that Photoshop mentality. If I can make it look like whatever I want it to look like to appease an audience that I think that is going to give me the validation, the attention that I think that I need, it doesn't matter how true that picture looks like, as long as I have the appearance of success. But it's not about, when you really want to be really successful, it's not about the appearance of success. It's about the reality of it. And we know success has many different definitions for many people. It's not just about money. It's not just about fame or fortune, but whatever that success is, you can exert more energy in the appearance than in the results of the success. And so the guy that's the woo guy, the Ric Flair, he exerts all that energy trying to appear successful, but when it comes down to grinding and getting it out and gutting it out, and like you said, going 9 months with just 20 followers, it takes energy, because you get frustrated trying to figure out, how do I unlock the code? It seems like I'm doing everything right. It seems like I'm following the trends and I'm posting content and doing whatever. But if you would have given up, you would have never made it to that July 4th weekend. Yep. You know, all it takes is that one door. You said that somebody saw it, one person saw it, and then it was a chain of events. And so many of us are just one step away. We're just one door away. We're just one opportunity away, right there at the edge. And you don't even realize it, because what I realized in my own life, it was at the time that I felt most frustrated and the most that I felt like giving up. It was a sign. It was really an indication of a sign that I was on the point and the verge of a breakthrough.
Amen.
It is at the time that you feel the most frustrated and the most upset. And when you're experiencing the most turmoil, it's almost like when that mother who's pregnant with her child, the time that she experiences the most pain is when the child is getting ready to come forth and be birthed. That's when you experience the most pain, is when you're at the point of your breakthrough, because we have to realize that success is a journey and a marathon, not a sprint. We have this mentality that the proof in our pudding is going to be viral. Everybody wants to go viral. Everybody wants to go viral. And
microwave mentality.
Yeah. So what'd you say now? Hold on. Hit that again.
Microwave mentality.
Microwave mentality. Explain that, John. Microwave mentality.
So we live in a microwave society, right? Where, like, when my kids want to eat dinner, I'm like, sure, I'll be ready in about 45 minutes. My son instantly goes, oh, because what he wants is me to put it in the microwave, press 2 minutes, and it pops out ready to go. But the reality is, we see success the same way. We look at others on our social media and assume that their success has been overnight. But if you talk to somebody who's truly successful, you know, they'll say, yeah, so, you know, it took me 15 years to get here, and so therefore I'm an overnight success. It took them 14 and a half to get noticed. In that last 6 months, things boomed. But they've been grinding for years, and then just happened that everybody noticed what they'd been doing, and they're all of a sudden an overnight success. Microwave mentality is people who want to just, you know, press the button and it happens really fast, versus allowing things to there's a law, right? It's called the law of sowing and reaping. It's God's law. It's a law. You can't get around it no matter how much you want to. Sometimes things can happen faster than others, but it's the law of sowing and reaping. It's like gravity, right? If you don't believe gravity, jump off a building and see if it works. It's true. Drop a penny or something. You can't get around gravity. Like, you can't get around the law of lift where an airplane takes off. You cannot get around the law of sowing and reaping. When you sow, there is a sowing season, and then there's a progression, and then there's a harvest. The cool part is the harvest, when sown in good soil, is always exceeds, right, what you've sown. So you'll sow seed and you'll reap a bigger harvest. You don't sow one seed of corn and then get one ear. You get multiple, right? But not all of them pop up. So
yeah, absolutely. You talked about that microwave mentality. I was listening on Clubhouse this week to Grant Cardone. And they were asking him, what is a bad question to you? And he said, a bad question that people ask me is, when was your big break? Because he said, when you're successful, you don't have a big break. You have big breaks. There was breaks along the way, right? So it wasn't just a big moment. As you said, it wasn't just a microwave. It wasn't just a viral moment. It was all the nights that added up of tears and sweats and all the nights that you felt like giving up, those were the breaking points. It wasn't the point that you got on the stage. It was the point behind the scenes. You talked about that microwave mentality and how your son cries because he wants something. He wants something quick, you know. And so what he doesn't realize, and what we can use that as a launching point, because a lot of people want filet mignon. They have filet mignon palates, but they have the patience for McDonald's. One can be quickly done. Another cannot be done in the microwave. And so I don't know about you, but I'm trying to go for the filet mignon. Filet mignon cannot be done in the microwave, right? It takes time. If you ever had a good meal, sometimes you got to let that meat marinate overnight. You've got to let those seasonings come together and let those juices really get into the meat and the bone of that particular protein that you're working with, so you can get that hearty meal. It takes time. When we have Thanksgiving dinner, your mom don't start making Thanksgiving dinner in 30 minutes. You know, not a mother that really knows how to cook.
If she does, go to another house.
Right. You're at the wrong house. You're at the wrong house. But a lot of times what happens is that our pudding is lacking proof, and it's lacking the results that we desire to have, because we have a lack of motivation. We have a lack of motivation. A lot of people are trying to find motivation from things that don't align itself with your purpose. And so motivation, I heard someone say this week that motivation is like a warm bath. The warm bath feels good when you get in. It feels real comfortable, nice and warm, and you feel all fuzzy. But after a while, the warm bath gets cool. That temperature will drop. And that's what happens to our motivation. We feel great after a great motivational speech. Man, that was awesome. What a word. I feel just charged. I feel pumped up. And we get high for a moment. But after that moment, we come down, and then we're like, man, I don't know if I can do it. I don't feel like doing it anymore. I don't know if I can make it another day. I don't really know if this is really for me. I don't know if this job is for me. I don't know if this business is really for me, because your motivation was placed in the wrong place. It was not aligned with your purpose. There's a formula for motivation, and it's P times E times S3. That's P times E times S3. P means purpose. And your purpose is not just intellectually, it's emotionally. What are you emotionally tied into? What are you emotionally invested in? Because if you can find something that your emotions are tied to and you are emotionally invested in, I promise you, you can stick something easier than that with that. There's something that you just have knowledge of, or that you have knowledge about. Your purpose is not really tied to the intellectual side of you. It's tied to the emotional, the soul of you. But the E is about energy. And so P times E is energy. Some of us have motivation not because we lack the emotional or the intellect, but we are simply exhausted. We're simply drained, whether it be from doing things that are outside of your purpose. Maybe it's your 9 to 5. Maybe it's your family. Maybe it's things that you're running errands with, and you've got things going on in life. And by the time you get to the end of the day, you have not written or continued to write your book. You have not read a chapter in your book. You have not finished your goal because you are literally physically exhausted, are mentally drained. And so you have to find time and find a space to optimize your energy. And so we have the P times E, the purpose, times the energy, times the S3. The S3 stands for the 3 S's. That is small, simple steps. You may have a giant goal, a big goal, but that doesn't mean you always have to take giant steps. The steps that you take to get to that end goal, to that end destination, as we said, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Small, simple steps do add up. And so don't feel bad when you feel like you see other people and you look at the proof that is in their life, and you look at the picture of their life, and you think that every move they made was some big gigantic move to get where they are now. That's not true at all. It takes small, simple steps to get to where you are, because little by little, little can become a lot. Little by little, little can become a lot. John, do you have anything when it comes to the motivation of people?
Yeah. So I had read a book called it was called Go Live the Dream, No More Excuses by a guy named Larry Winters, who runs this gigantic like marketing company. Right. And he wrote this thing. It said needs times faith equals motivation. He said everybody wants things. Everybody I want this. I want a car. I want a house. I want. He's like, but wants don't drive people. It's the needs that drive people, right? What do you actually need? Now, a need doesn't mean that you need a house necessarily, but it's like internally, sometimes you just can't do without what. And typically that is pointed to your purpose, right? You just can't breathe unless you're serving, or you just can't sleep unless you're what? That's your need. And then the faith to know that you can accomplish it is what gives you motivation. And granted, the word faith doesn't mean you actually know you can accomplish something, but you have the faith that with work you can do it. So the needs times the faith can equal motivation. So it's critical to understand, like, what do you need? What is your purpose? That should help with your motivation. And then for me, it's important to have a little self-awareness. I like what you said by small, simple steps. I've always said inch by inch, everything's a cinch. Yard by yard is hard, right? Break it down into small, little, bite-sized pieces.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean everything you do has to be in a smaller bite-sized piece. So I'm big on self-development. So I like to read books. I try to read nightly, right? But if I take too long to read a book, then I get bored of it. It's just how it is. So I know if I consistently read every night for so many times, I'll get through a book. And typically if I get through the book in a week, I'm pretty good. 2 weeks max. If it takes longer than that, I'm just my personality. As I get bored of it, I close it up and never come back to it. Or it takes a while to come back. That's me. Working on my house, for example. I don't flip the whole house at once, but I have projects within the house. If I were to take 3 days to paint a room, after about the first day of me taping and getting it started, I would probably not come back to it for a long time. It's like that bathroom y'all have probably that you started, and then you're like, I'll do this much this weekend, this much that weekend, this much next weekend, right? The project is the house. The overall picture is a nicer house. But you picked out the bathroom, but then you broke it. You taken too long to get things done because you were motivated right in January, but you decided to wait until February. You broke it down to February to get fixed. I know personally I'll never finish the bathroom. So what I do is I take this small bite-sized piece and I get as much done while I'm motivated. So I will stay up till 3 or 4 in the morning painting a room because I'm motivated to get it done right then. When I work with unscripted stuff, love it. It's one of my favorite things to do, right? Worked on a website and I was up till 2 o'clock in the morning just jamming away on this website because I was motivated to do it and I wanted to do it. I know if I waited the next day and I put it over a 4-day span, I would eventually burn out an interest because of my personality. That may not be yours. I'm saying you need to have some self-awareness. Personally, I have to ride the motivation train. And when I'm motivated, I just do it as long and as much and as hard as I can until it's done. Otherwise, I typically get unmotivated over time.
Yeah, I think that's really good what you said, because what I'm getting from what you said is that you are clear in your direction.
Mm-hmm.
You're clear in what you want to do. You understand that, hey, man, if it takes me 2 weeks, I'm not going to finish this book. I'm going to move on. And I think that's a person that has good self-awareness and that has clear mind of thinking, because a lot of times the reason why we don't have that proof or the evidence that we are desiring is because we have a confused plan. We have a confused mind. There are too many thoughts, as you said, that we're all over the place. And it's good to have these ambitions and aspirations, but you have to break down your dream. And so you can't just say, I want to be a millionaire and then have a million different venues and avenues to get there. A confused mind won't do anything because you don't know which direction to go. You don't have a clear path to get there. And so breaking that down will help you put those things that are into practice because common sense is not always common practice. And so it may be common sense to someone else, but it may not be put into that common practice. And so it's good to have that awareness of that motivation. And so what John was saying is that he understands the source of his motivation. He understands that when it comes to the unscripted, that's something that automatically he doesn't have to get himself up to do. It's something that he enjoys doing because that's the source of motivation. And there are three sources of motivation that we all can ask ourselves. This is the source that I can identify with. And once I've identified with that source of motivation, then I can execute on my goals and my dreams and my aspirations. And those three sources of motivation are extrinsic, intrinsic, and family. Extrinsic, intrinsic, and family. And so if your motivation is extrinsic, that means that you are doing something for external rewards, for what you get from it. None of these three things are inherently bad. You just have to find where you fall in your source of motivation. And so if you get your motivation from external rewards, say, for instance, in your career, that means that you are doing it for financial gain, benefits, perks, and even avoiding getting fired. You know, sometimes when you have extrinsic motivation, it's not just so much about the monetary, but sometimes that extrinsic motivation can come from a place of fear. So you're doing this so you don't have to get into the situation, or so that you can avoid the consequences of that situation. So you do something at your job ahead of time. Your source of motivation is not maybe necessarily that you even like your job. Your source of motivation is that I don't want my supervisor or my boss to be disappointed in me. So I put that extra effort forward and ahead so I don't get fired. Doesn't necessarily mean that you enjoy it. It just means that your source of motivation comes from things that are on the outside, not on the inside. The second source of motivation is intrinsic. It was John just beautifully laid it out. It's that internal drive for success or that sense of purpose. This is the source of motivation that I believe that all leaders should have. Because if we are real extrinsic motivation, nothing wrong with it, but it can fade away fast. It can get away from you. If it's based off money, if it's based off of rewards, those things can fade, things can change. One thing that cannot change is your internal drive. Either you have it or you do not. Whether your purpose is in you, you can reach for it, you can identify with it. That's what you need to have. And so that intrinsic motivation is your internal drive. It is that push that gets you up in the morning without an alarm clock. It is that push that pushes you to get to the gym and run that extra mile because you have a passion for healthy lifestyle. And so we have the extrinsic, intrinsic, but then we have family. This is the motivation that you have because you are motivated by the desire to provide for your loved ones, and not just provide, but as we talked about last week, to be an example, to be a template, to be a trailblazer, to be a blueprint as a father, to be a blueprint as a mother for your children. That the reason why I'm doing this is so you all, as my lineage and as my legacy, can stand upon my shoulders and go further than I went. That is your motivation, that, you know what, I want my ceiling to be my kid's floor. That the height that I went to, I want that to be the bottom for my next generation. And so you're motivated by that. You just got to find one of those three avenues, and it may be more than just one. You may be motivated by all three, but I guarantee if you can identify that source of motivation, you will not burn out and you will not give up. John, what do you identify with when it comes to those three sources of motivation?
I'm definitely intrinsically motivated, and also family, but I think that it kind of crosses over a little bit.
Yeah.
So Guys, there's definitely, I would say, I was about to say there's no lazy people, but we all know there's people who happen to be more lazy than
Yes,
others.
we are.
But I also fall back to the fact that I believe that God doesn't make any junk.
Okay.
And so what that tells me is you're not inherently lazy. I think you just haven't found what motivates you. And that doesn't mean, okay, so, I procrastinate on things all the time, but there's certain things that I have to do right away, and I never get tired until it's done, unless it's super late. I'm going to bed and I'm waking up and I'm doing it again. It's on my mind. Got to get it done. Can't wait to work on it. There's things like that. But I also have a car right now in my driveway that I've been meaning to sell for about a month. Okay. And so it's just sitting there. Doesn't even start now. It hasn't been started a month. Therefore, I'm sure the battery's dead. I'm not very motivated for whatever reason I should be, because I'll make money for selling the car, right? That's really stupid. Should have had it up already, but now it's snowing, and that's my next excuse why I don't have it up this weekend, because it's snowing. And so, but when I'm working on something for my kids, for my wife, or with Lafayette, heavily motivated. I don't want to wait a second. I just want to do it. My wife's like, "You're going to burn out," and I'm like, "No, I don't burn out. I'm not a candle. It's going to be fine." And and I get what she's saying, but I can't. It's like when I have these projects, I can't even watch television or anything. I just sit there and think about them.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to get back to them. It's what brings me joy. And so don't think that certain people just never procrastinate. If you're out there and you're like, "I procrastinate way too much," we all do on certain things. I have a shower door that is needed. I've needed to work on. I got a new one. The other one works, but I need another one because one that would work. Long story, but I need to replace it. It's only been 2 years. I mean, eventually I ought to just hire a handyman to fix it, right? So we all procrastinate on things, but there's certain things to me that I hold in high priority that I just never procrastinate on, or rarely procrastinate. I just like to jump on it. So if you just never find yourself motivated, you're probably just looking in the wrong areas and have not yet found what brings you joy or what is purposeful to you. And often, whatever brings you joy is not going to be whatever brings you. It's often going to be something for you helping other people. Because as human beings, we just love to help. We love to hold the door for the next person. We love to have people over and enjoy our food. We love to go to the charity event and serve food for people who can't get food themselves. All those things. That's what brings us internal joy. So find something that brings you joy by serving. It can be a product. It could be a service. It could be something that will help you stay motivated. But, everybody says I just need to go and, feel better about myself. So they spend 24 hours a day, it seems like, in the gym. And then they get burnt out. And then they're always looking in front of the mirror, taking selfies and putting them on Instagram for these likes, because you think that's going to bring you joy. It's not. Now, if you're doing it so you can motivate others to be healthier, I get it. But often when it's just like, look at my new biceps. Look, I support the dad bod all the time. Doesn't bother me. I don't care. I feel good about myself. I'd like to be in a little better shape. I'm not motivated to get in better shape yet. But that's what will bring you joy, guys. Finding something that serves other people. You won't get burnt out. I promise.
Absolutely. Find your source of motivation. And on your journey of finding it, don't quit because you're experiencing pain in the journey. The difference between an amateur and a champion is the willingness to push past the pain period. Yeah. So find your source of motivation, because we all have proof in our pudding. Whether your proof is positive or whether it's negative, we all have evidence. The determination of what that looks like is ultimately up to you. Listen, we want to give you another source of motivation for you to add to your library. And this is our last week. Next week, we'll have a new read of the month. This read of the month is The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas Stanley. And we talked about that Unscripted is a platform. It is a community that we are engaging in with leaders to come together to unite, develop, and empower leaders, not just in the area of family, faith, and community, but also business. And I promise you, this will be a resource for you to read, and it will develop you and give you some strategies to take you to the next level in the areas of your finance. As always, we thank you all for listening to this episode. And we want you to continue to support us and follow us. Give us those likes, give us those reviews, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you follow us on any of our social media platforms as you see there on the bottom of your screen: Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. All of those platforms are readily available to you, and you can find our Unscripted Authentic Leadership brand across the board. You type our name in, we are the same on each platform, whether that be on the Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn, but also on the streaming platforms such as Apple, Spotify, the Google Podcasts, iHeart Radio, Stitcher, and also on the website there. We'll be giving you some updated information as regarding our website coming soon. We're excited to have some things in the works, but please follow us and give us reviews. Tell somebody if this podcast continues to bless you and encourage you, uplift you, and if it feels like it's taking you, helping you take you to the next level, tell someone about the Unscripted Authentic Leadership podcast. We'll be grateful for it, and I promise you those lives will be touched and they will be changed for the better. This has been another amazing episode of the Unscripted Authentic Leadership podcast. We pray that you be the leader that God has called you to be. And as we always say here at the Unscripted family, we are here to build bridges and not walls, because bridges connect and walls divide. Until next time, God bless you.